Tough act to follow. We should have put him last. Great to see everyone. Thank you so much for being here and for being part of this important conversation. I am so thrilled to be here with my esteemed colleagues to talk about some action steps and what we can do to scale the approaches that we've talked about all day, that so many of us are deep believers in, to reach more kids and families. So this is a priority for myself and my team at Overdeck Family Foundation. We have been funding in this arena for about 10 years, and which is about as long as we've existed. And I hope everyone is convinced about the why and the what of family engagement, and motivated to explore how to expand these practices to really make a difference. So I will ask, we'll just go down the line and ask everyone to set the stage and tell us a little bit about your organization and why it's so important to bring these successful models and practices to systems, programs, and partnerships across the country. I'll start.
I'm Andrea Preja, the Executive Director of Parent-Teacher Home Visits. This is my whole 5th day in this role. Some grace would be appreciated. But I have been a strong supporter, former board member of Parent-Teacher Home Visits, and just really love this organization and the work that it does. But we are a family engagement practice. I am using that word, practice, that is focused on student success by building relationships. So we have and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but we have 5 non-negotiables that are very important and that we think you have to have when you have a successful parent engagement strategy. We also feel that we are part of a larger family engagement strategy. We're a how, but there are other pieces of that. We think that that's really important. And I would be remiss in saying how wonderful it was to be sitting and hearing parent-teacher home visit by people in this room who have been on visits themselves, and a lot of the research is talking about it.
Hi, I am Darcy Hutchins. I'm the Director of Family, School, and Community Partnerships at the Colorado Department of Education. And I feel so fortunate to work at a state education agency that really values the importance of putting an infrastructure in place and really elevating the importance of family engagement. My position is legislated, which is the only director level legislated position that supports family engagement at a state education agency in the country. And we also have a legislative advisory council, the State Advisory Council for Parent Involvement in Education, SACPI, which is an incredible acronym, one of my favorites. And so again, we really invest in the importance of family engagement and have put together a systemic support structure where the state can support districts to partner with schools to work with families for positive student outcomes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Helen Westmoreland. I'm the director of the Center for Family Engagement at National PTA. For those of you who don't know, PTA is an advocacy organization. So our mission is to engage and empower families and communities to advocate for all children. And our North Star is really that every child's potential is a reality. So cutting across this mission is really an emphasis on both equity and impact. So we are called to this work of building the evidence base for family engagement because we deeply believe that every parent deserves to be treated as the valued and respected expert partner in their child's education. And every school deserves to have the support to be able to engage all of their children's families. We know from decades of research how important this work is, but we know on both these equity and impact fronts that there's more to be done. National PTA commissioned a couple of years ago a study of public school parents, and only 2 out of 10 parents reported that their kid's school was doing anything specific to engage families that had historically been disconnected or marginalized from that school. And we heard the same from school administrators when we asked them recently in some of our marketing research. But we did hear from them that 8 out of 10 principals are looking for ideas about how to make their limited family engagement budgets more impactful. So we know that sort of bringing these two pieces together takes a lot of work. And we're excited and honored, quite frankly, to be in this room of Titans as part of this conversation.
Thank you, everyone. We know that the benefits of family engagement are so profound. We've heard wonderful examples today, and Titans is a perfect word for the folks in this room and the work you've led over the decades. We know that student engagement is a big part of this, and we know that the systems to enable student engagement and family engagement are critical. So Darcy, I'd like to start with you. Colorado has invested in the infrastructure that it takes to prioritize family engagement. Can you tell us what that looks like and how it helps you evaluate and scale the state's support for this work?
Sure. I actually have to push back a little bit earlier, and I don't see him in the room right now, but the wonderful Vito Borello at NASCI said that state education agency work isn't necessarily, I forget the word he used, riveting, exciting. I would just like to push back because I don't think anything could be more riveting than the work that I do. And I'm not joking. I hear some chuckles in the room. I'm serious. So in Colorado, it's all about putting in place a system that focuses on scaling, sustaining systemic family, school, and community partnerships. And I should preface all of what I'm about to say in a brief 3 minutes to set the stage that I've been in my position for just over 11 years now. And I've been so fortunate to have the same supervisor for that entire length of time. And so it's really helpful to have the sustainability even in personnel, which I know is often not the case in many places. So we in Colorado follow a lot of Dr. Joyce Epstein's work, another Titan in the field whose name I've not heard mentioned today. So I would like to bring up her role in all of the work that she has done. And her research over decades have really found that at the state level, you should really focus on both state level leadership as well as direct facilitation of districts. And so that's what we have done in Colorado. At the state level, I started, also as Dr. Harris said, she was duped. I don't see her in the room. She was duped into thinking she had an office and she was one person. I was not duped. I knew what I was getting into, but I also started as a team of 1. And now we have a team of 3. The wonderful Jess Stroop and Jamie Madigan are part of my team at the Colorado Department of Education. And so we elevate the importance of family engagement by having a dedicated office of staff, but we also integrate it throughout the department. We're fortunate to have the CDE FSCP COP. So the Colorado Department of Education, Family, School, and Community Partnerships, Community of Practice. And it's a group that meets quarterly with our colleagues from across the Department of Education. In about 26 different offices, we have over 50 people that meet quarterly, come together, talk about supporting one another, because family engagement really is woven throughout everything that we do. But we also support district level staff. We have cohorts of districts along the Front Range in Colorado, as well as rural, that focus on implementing our framework. And as Emily Morris mentioned, our rubrics that have now become global. And so that intentionality that we focus on really helps with evaluating, because it's all about intentionality. And family engagement doesn't just happen by accident. We really need to make it intentional and woven throughout all of the work that we do. And so that intentionality helps measure the impact.
Superheroes and systems. Andrea, I'll turn to you. Parent-teacher home visits as a practice has spread from one community to many states and districts now. Can you tell us how evidence has been part of this journey and what you would need to scale this practice even more?
Sure. Maybe just, I'd be remiss if I didn't start off by saying, despite our name, it is not just teachers who are engaged in home visits, that we have bus drivers and secretaries and paraprofessionals. I really value the work of education support professionals. So just wanted to say that. So if you are out there and would like to do home visits and you are not a teacher, we welcome you and we'll engage with you in training. So I think Dr. Sheldon spoke a little bit about this, about the systematic implementation, and that really drives us. So what we're talking about is if at least 10% of students in a school or school system get a home visit, both those students who got the home visit and those students who did not get the home visit will reap some benefit from that. And so we think that one of the things is many of us have been teachers, you know how much of your time, how little time you have. And so that's always sometimes the pushback. So we are not saying that every student needs to have a home visit. We know that there are lots of teachers who do their best to visit everyone. But we think that that is a piece of information and a piece of data that will help us spread parent-teacher home visit and really drives us. The other piece I would talk a little bit is about the 5 non-negotiables. These are always voluntary, and they are set up in advance. You're not just showing up at someone's home, or as Dr. Mapp said earlier, it does not have to be at someone's home. It can be at the local bodega or the library or whatever is comfortable to those parents. Teachers are trained, paraprofessionals are trained on how to do this, and we include in those training parents as trainers and facilitators of the training. It's really important if we're thinking about mindsets of educators, mindsets of parents, families, that they see each other in these roles of responsibility, of authority around their children, their students, and what they know and how they best learn. And so having those parents as facilitators is really important. We, in fact, have on staff, some of you know Yesenia. Yesenia was 25 years ago a parent in Sacramento who was organizing with other parents and teachers in Sacramento to start parent-teacher home visit. And it was a listening activity. So that organizing piece, I think, is very important and something that is part of our DNA. These are cross-sectional visits. These are not the 3 kids in my class that I'm really worried about as a teacher. I'm really worried about them as a teacher, and I'm going to reach out to their parents. But we are not just pulling out the kids who need help, but we are doing a cross-sectional visit. Teachers and paras, bus drivers, whomever are doing, they are trained to do this. Someone said, I forget, I think Vito made a comment about, I really want to do this visit and so I can do it. I really want to engage parents so I can do it. You need to be trained on how to do this. It's about changing belief system, changing mindsets. And they're compensated for their time. And then it's about hopes and dreams. We're not going in. This is not a parent conference. This is not a parent conference where many of us are teachers and we bring out student work. That's not what this is about. What are your hopes and dreams for your child, and how can we work together to get them there? And then finally, they go in pairs so that when they leave, they can reflect on what they saw. They can work together, they can point out, they can ask the question when someone makes a comment. Really, that's not what I saw. What I saw was this. And so those are our 5 non-negotiables. They're the things that drive our work. And when we talk to school systems or teachers or whomever is asking, we say these are the 5 non-negotiables. Other people have parent visits, home visits, but our visits are around these relational relationships.
Beautiful. It's a perfect example of what the secretary called out about the importance of not assuming one size fits all, but really adapting a practice to fit the local context. And the 5 core practices are really, or the 5 non-negotiables are a great way to do that. Helen, we'll turn to you. Speaking of scaling and spreading practices, the National PTA recently launched something special called Family Engagement Solutions, which is a free online tool for anyone wondering to help decision makers find evidence-based programs and practices for family engagement that could apply to their context. So what have you learned about programs and practices, and why should schools invest in them?
So we've learned a ton. As you mentioned, I hope everyone will check it out. It's www.familyengagementsolutions.org. It is a tool to help decision makers really find some of these proven programs that strengthen family-school partnerships. The first thing I'll say that we've learned, Dr. Mapp pointed out earlier, is there's rigorous research in this field, and we are compiling it here. So these are programs that have designed some really robust evaluations and shown impacts on kids' outcomes, which is what we are all in the business of with schooling, right? Like we want our kids to do better. They've also shown great impacts on teacher and family outcomes. So a couple of other things that we've learned in this process, and I should say, these programs have been vetted by community and parent leaders at National PTA in alignment with the national standards for family school partnerships. So you can know these are programs that are rooted in practices like sharing power, like blinking around learning. We have learned that these are programs building capacity at schools, and schools want and need that help, right? Like, so I think that we're in a place where it can be easy to say, okay, I want to do this. We had a question earlier. How do I get started, right? Like there is a big trajectory to really transform the way a school or district does family and community engagement. And part of the equation, going beyond our charismatic, amazing leaders, is finding partners that have inherently that expertise and capacity to build some really authentic connections, whether it's parent-teacher home visits. We have programs in family engagement solutions that are working on homeschool communication models and translating texts and mobile platforms, just a ton of really incredible work. The other thing I'll share that we've learned more in the marketing research for this, but it came up a little bit earlier, is there's a lot of cognitive dissonance among the money movers in schools and districts about family and community engagement. So on the one hand, they'll say, we're doing a pretty good job. We feel pretty good. We feel like it's pretty successful. But then when you probe a layer deeper, you hear, well, we're not really reaching all of our families, or well, we're not really sure that this work is aligned to our improvement goals, whatever that may be. So we hope that this can be a tool for people like that in those situations to turn to and find programs that meet their community context, that have proven to work with families like theirs in their community, and that we continue to build the evidence base so more and more programs are in it.
Fantastic. It's a great way to not have to reinvent the wheel, but to share best practices across the country. So thank you. We'll close out with a question about dreams. We're dreaming big today. What dreams do each of you have for scaling evidence-based practices and programs in family engagement? Andrea, I'll start with you.
Sure, this has already been spoken to, but it's really close to my heart. I'm very invested in the teaching profession. I've spent the last 11, 12 years leading a whole department on that. And I think that if we can have teachers understand that they have their work and that parent engagement is part of that work. It's not a nice to have, it's not a when I get a minute, it is actually part of your work. And that would be my dream.
I will stick to time, but I'm going to be selfish. I have 3 dreams. The first dream, actually, I'm sort of piggybacking on Andrea here, is, and I'm going to echo what a lot of you have already said, but to really bolster pre-service training, whether it's in traditional education preparation programs or in alternative certification programs. I started my career as a first grade teacher just up the road in Baltimore City, and I was not prepared in the slightest to partner with families. And then I quickly learned that actually that's what I enjoyed the most about teaching. So that would be dream number one. Dream number two is that family engagement is fully funded in every school, in every district, in every state in the country, and fully funded. Applause, applause. Again, citing Dr. Joyce Epstein in the data sets that she has, she found that when you combine school, district, and state policy levels, staff and running programs, and when you pull all of that together, it is only $27 to $47 per pupil expenditure to fully fund family engagement. Are students worth $27 to $47 per pupil per year to fund family engagement? I think yes. And then number three, we have a theme this year in my office at the Colorado Department of Education, which is FSCP, Family School Community Partnerships, that thing you do. And that would be my third dream, where you would never walk into a school building that didn't have a literacy curriculum or a math curriculum. But how often do we walk into schools that do not have an intentional family engagement structure in place? So those are my three dreams.
Well said. Helen,
Ditto those dreams. That's amazing. I'll actually tell a story building off that. When I, previous to National PTA, worked at the Flamboyant Foundation, and in our first few days, Ann Henderson came and we were working on how do we make the case for this and how do we make the case. And she shared with me some of the Chicago Consortium for School Research that Eyal talked about earlier, and that family engagement is just as predictive of school turnaround as a great curriculum, as a great school leader. And just imagine if we treated it with the same level of rigor that we do the science of reading. So part of my dream is that there is more national news around great family engagement practice and call to action to really transform some of the pretty outdated models that still exist in our schools and sometimes even still do harm to our communities around how we engage our families. And education doesn't always make the news cycle, but it has with the science of reading. And it should with family engagement, because this work is just as important, just as worthy of policymaker attention, of sitting in senior level cabinet meetings in school districts, trying to figure out which approach should we go with and how many people do we need to do it and what's it going to take and where do we get the money from and how can we make it happen? Those kinds of conversations should be happening every single day. And I will add very briefly to that, Carly, I want to thank you and the Overdeck Foundation for your investments in family and community engagement. In addition to these public dollars, every private foundation that is investing in public education, whether they have a math portfolio or an educational leadership portfolio, should have a portion of that portfolio focused on family and community engagement. And you all have really done a tremendous job with that. And I hope more funders will take notice and realize that they can't see the full impact of that portfolio if they too aren't investing in family and community engagement.
Here, here.
thank you, Helen. Couldn't agree more. And I hope for everyone watching and everyone at home that you will take action based on what you heard today to spread and scale some of the incredible practices that are already underway in so many places. So thank you all for sharing your expertise.